Hi, welcome. This is Ronnie Calmera, and my episode today is about the state of the economies of the BRICS. If you don't know me, I'm the economist. I have 30 years of experience, and I'm studying the BRICS and the United States. So if you want to know exactly how the BRICS are doing, we're going to dive in. This is the fourth episode this week, and I have vowed to complete the fifth episode. So, what is it about? Let me just show you exactly what this is about. I'm going to show you first how you can join my community. You can join my community of the people in the VIP, and you can join it by going to a URL, and how you go to that URL is bit.ly/USA-macro-investment-model, and I'm going to show you. When you click there, you're going to get up at this site. You're going to put your name and your email in there, and when you put your name and your email, what you will see is you will join a community, and you will be notified as soon as I have my 16-week journey where we dive into the USA economy. We dive much more. Today I'm going to show you just some of the things that we're going to do. We're going to examine the USA economy, but we are going to compare it with the BRICS. So today, this is exactly what we're going to do, and let me show you my screen. This is an economic model, okay? This is an economic model. Let me close this window a little bit. This is an economic model, and we are going to create an economic model exactly like this. This is a model of Curacao, and you can run simulations. You can see a lot of graphs in this model. You can see the graphs of the main key indicators, right? And imagine you are having this for the USA economy. You know exactly till 2030 what are the trends, what's going on with the USA economy. Imagine you having the purchasing power because you want to know if your family is safe or not, if your family is gaining wealth in this global situation where we are in, of trade tariffs, maybe financial wars, maybe cutting taxes for the wealthy and cutting the government, all these things. Are you interested? If you are in the Caribbean region, you might be on an island, and the island is fully tourism based. And when it's tourism based, it means that it's probably from the United States, and if something happens in the United States, if they raise prices going up over there, look at the previous episodes where I explained this, then you're going to feel it in the Caribbean. So that is why you want to do that. Now, what are the indicators? What are the indicators that we're going to talk about today? Now, what is an indicator? An indicator is just a variable where you want to see what is happening. For instance, one of the indicators are the GDP. That's the gross domestic product. That is what a country produces in a year. Okay, this is a spreadsheet, and you see that we can group the indicators. We can group the indicators by going to the real sector. These are real indicators. And real sector means that, okay, I want the GDP. I want the growth of the economy. Then I would go to the real GDP. You might want to look at the indicator, which is the total economy. Then you go to GDP, current prices. You want maybe to look at how rich a country is. United States, China, Russia. Then you look at the GDP per capita. You divide the total GDP, which is the gross domestic product. That's what we earn, what we produce in a year. You want to divide it by the total number of people. So these are indicators that are in the real sector. Where did I get this spreadsheet? I got this spreadsheet because I have a program, I have a system, and I will show you that program that goes to the IMF website and picks up an indicator, just one of the indicators that I want, then picks up a country that I select, and then does some magic and produces a graph. Normally, if you want to get this kind of information, you need to go on many websites, try to download the data, try to create a graph, but my magic graph program will just do that instantly. I can send any indicator, any of these indicators, I can send in there. I can pick up a country, all the countries in the world, and if that indicator is available, because sometimes the country doesn't produce that indicator, doesn't give that indicator to the IMF or to the World Bank, then we cannot see that indicator. But if that indicator exists, right now you will see that. We're going to show you that. And why are we going to show you that? Because we can analyze the BRICS versus United States. I'm going to show you only today a couple of variables, but you get a sense, and during the 16-week experience, we're going to dive much more into that. So look at that. You can have monetary variables. These are all monetary variables. You can have external variables. So you see here the sector is external, and then this is the variable name that we're going to use. It's a code, and then here you see the description of the variable, current account balance. So if you want to look at how much the USA trades with the world, and do they have a positive or a negative balance, and you want to see that compared to their economy, maybe USA has a minus 5%, like a trade deficit, a current account deficit, because the USA exports less than they import from China. You see, you need to know all these indicators, see what's happening to make your own conclusion. And you don't want to listen only to people like we're going to tax the world and we're going to hit the world and they're going to pay. We are based on figures, on data. So another indicator is the fiscal indicator. So you want to look at the fiscal sector, which is the government sector. Is the government sector, do they have a surplus or a deficit? Do they have more expenditures than their income, than the revenues from taxes or not? These are all these indicators. So you see all these indicators, I collected them for you. When you join the 16-week experience, you're going to get these indicators because I want to make your life more easy, yeah, relax. That's what I come in. Good. So these are all indicators. You see here, there are 127 indicators for all the countries in the world. Imagine that. So that's what the benefits is of joining a program. Now, let me, before we go and analyze these indicators for the BRICS and United States in another framework, let me show you what we're going to do during the 16 weeks. So back at the BRICS. And now let me look at this picture. And I'm now going to show you data science. So this is how we automate. This is how we automate basically the stuff. And I am speaking often with, let's say, with investors. And I'm speaking with people, and I'm giving workshops all over the Caribbean, basically online. And then I'm discussing this with them. So when you get insight, I'm showing you right now something of the things that I'm showing my investors, my students. The students can be high-paid professionals. They might have savings. They might be policy department of the government. They might be pension funds. We discuss these kinds of things. What's happening? Look at this. So let me just show you. One of the things. This is a graph. And I'm going fast through these graphs. But this graph is a dynamic graph. This graph is a dynamic graph. What you see here is you see the government, the United States debt, because I just chose the debt here as an indicator. I picked the debt code from the spreadsheet I just showed you, and I put in USA, and then bam, I got this indicator. Now, what is this indicator telling you? It's telling you that basically, let me see if I can make it a little bit smaller. This indicator is telling you that actually, look at that. This indicator is telling you that the government of the United States, or the people of the United States, they have 120% more debt than their economy, the whole economy. And look at it. In 1950 to 70s, before President Nixon decoupled the dollar from gold, it was going down, the debt. And then suddenly in the 80s, 90s, it went up, and then bam, it went 120%. So United States is loaded in debt. Now, look at this. You get all these indicators. This is the code, and you get all these spreadsheets, all these countries. We have data, and we have the code of these countries. So what I need is the code of the country, for instance, Afghanistan, AFG. And then I need the code of the indicator, which is the debt, and then the picture will automatically appear. Now, to show you that this is live, we can actually go through this. Now, I prepared this already. I prepared these countries: Brazil, India, China, South Africa, United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, Iran, Egypt, Russian Federation. And I call them, and I also got European Union and the United States. Okay? So I already got all these data, and then I loaded in my Excel spreadsheet. This is data science. This is how the people do it. I can add an artificially intelligent agent in this program, let them reason for me on this data. That's done in a special Python program that is also available, that's soon going to be on. And now, let me go down. So these are preparatory things that I prepare. And I look at this. I got all these G7 countries also, which is USA, Japan, Canada, UK, France, Italy. And why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to analyze these countries. Okay. So how does this work? This is the debt. And then this is basically the debt. And then I can just get an indicator. So now here, these are the indicators that we're going to test today. So this is the debt, and there are other indicators that we're going to test. So I don't want to look only at the debt, but I want to look at the whole economy by picking one indicator after each other. Okay? So let me show this. And then you see here a mistake. Why is this a mistake? Because this means that this indicator is not available for the United States. You see that? This indicator is not available for the United States. But if I just say this indicator, let's pick up another indicator, the debt, and then I run that, then you see the graph. So if it breaks, I just show you, if this breaks, it only means that that indicator is not available. Okay? Now, boom. Let me go with the debt of Japan. Look at the debt of Japan compared to United States. This is really 200%. So Japan is more loaded in debt than the United States. 200%. That means that you basically need to work 2 years. If you work 2 years, if the Japanese work 2 years, everything they earn, they pay back their debt. It will take 2 years for them. Then they cannot consume, they cannot invest anything. So Japan is basically, what you see here is basically loaded in debt more than the United States. Now, this debt means that you're going to pay it. If you are Japanese, you will pay this debt in the future. Because debt means that you can pay the debt by growing out of it, but you can also pay the debt by raising the taxes. Now, let me look at Canada. Boom. So we are looking at the G7 now. We are looking at the G7 now, which is all these Japan, etc. We are looking at Canada. You see that? Canada's debt is about 60%. But it used to be 65%. So Canada, the debt actually needs to be below 60%. When the IMF comes to a small island or to a country like El Salvador or whatever, then they say your debt needs to be below 60%. But the IMF never went to the USA and told them that their debt needs to be below 60%. Because the IMF was created by the United States during the Bretton Woods conference in 1944. IMF, World Bank, all those things. So you see, the world we're living in, because the United States has the money of the world, the dollar, then they can allow themselves to not look at the debt, but fundamentally, when we economists look at this, we say, hey, this is not looking good. This is not looking good. If the United States loses their dollar power in the world, that people start using Bitcoin, or they start using renminbi, or they start using the euro, then the United States will feel this thing because it goes down. It applies for everybody. You can maintain it a little bit and say, okay, we are not paying our debt. We don't care. We are growing. We are going to make America big again. But America is not big in debt. Yeah, America is basically very, very big in debt. You see? So who's paying that debt? Who owns that debt? China. Look at this. Okay, then Britain. Boom. I'm going for the same indicator. Look at this, Britain. Britain, in 2022, Britain has, United Kingdom has about 100% of debt to GDP. So I'm looking at the BRICS, checking the state of the economy, and then you already look like the BRICS not, sorry. I'm looking at the BRICS compared to G7. Now we're looking at the G7. You see that they are all loaded in debt. These are developed economies who went up, United States leading this G7, but they are all having high debt rates. Debt to GDP. What does it mean? Okay, France. Let's look at France. So I'm having here the code of France. The country is France. And create this graph. This graph, create graph, is the magic that I have created. Boom. Once I enter this, then it will go to the IMF or the World Bank or any other sites where they have these databases with all these figures. And then it's bringing them right in this show, and it's showing us that. That's the magic. That's the world we're living in. I'm from the Caribbean, and I can do this for you wherever you are in the world. If you are in special session, we can run a simulation based on this. You see? So this is France. Let me see if we have this data from France. Enter. It's going up, and live we get the data. Okay, this is this. France, you see that? 90%. 2020, about 90%. So France is also loaded in debt. Loaded in debt. So France used to be in 1980. Let me say, 1980s, the debt was very low. And then basically in 2010, the debt was 60. And then actually IMF had, in 2010, if everything was correct, IMF had to come to the France and tell France, you are going on top. Take some measures. Decrease your expenditures. Raise your taxes. Liberalize your sector. Decrease your tariffs so that foreign direct investments could come into France. Now, that is the recipe that IMF gives to all the other developed nations in Africa and in Latin America and in the Caribbean when they come here. But you never see IMF going to France and telling France that, hey, you need to reduce this. You see how the world works? So if you tell El Salvador or if you tell other nations that they should decrease their debt by taking measures, then you should tell that to the France also. Okay, Italy. Let's look at Italy. Now we're going to put the code of country Italy in there. Boom. I didn't look at this, but let me surprise you with the facts. Boom. Okay. Look at Italy. So I'm not inventing this data. This data is right from the IMF database. Okay? So look at this. Italy in about 1965 had a very low debt to GDP, and then 120% in 1995. So probably Italy got a lot of problems in the European Union. They had to take some measures. 1990 to 2005, I know for sure that the Italians got a lot of measures for them. And the measures are not happy. The measures are reduce the government expenditures, reduce the subsidies, reduce the social expenditures for people, for poor Italians, increase the taxes, increase a sales tax maybe, increase anything. So basically this is probably a measure of the IMF coming to Italy. Okay, Italy is in the south, so boom. But it increased again, 140%. Look at this. So Italy, part of the G7, also in debt, loaded. Okay, now we're going to BRICS. Brazil. Let's do the same for Brazil, the same indicator, the debt. Let me look at Brazil. Okay, look at this. Brazil is basically around 80%. You see here? Around 80% of debt. So Brazil, part of the BRICS, this is the part of the BRICS. Brazil also basically loaded in debt. Not 100% like Italy. Not 140% like Italy, but 80. India. Let's look at India. We're only looking at the debt right now, but I'm going to show you another indicator also. India. Do we have India? Yes. India is about 55%. So if I draw this line, the next edition, I will draw a line there and say 60%. So India is basically, you see there, the moment India hits 60%, probably IMF, World Bank will come to them and say, hey, boom, you have to decrease it. Why isn't this happening with Brazil, with Italy? Why isn't it happening with France? Why isn't this happening with United Kingdom? You see, why isn't it happening with Canada, with USA? But Italy, with normally in Brazil, boom. Okay, so India reduced their debt about 55% in the safe zone because it has to be 60% max. Now let's look at China. Maybe we don't have China. If it breaks, it means we don't have that indicator. You see here, currently we don't have that indicator because it doesn't get China. Okay, that means that that indicator debt to GDP is not available for China. Then we have South Africa. Boom. ZAF. You see South Africa about 70%. But South Africa also from 2005 to 2020, it also went whoop a lot. What's happening there? What's happening there? Maybe South Africa had a very, very debt accumulation, debt growing very fast. If you have any questions, you can ask me the questions by going there. There are no comments right now. Let me see. Test. If you see this appearing, Island Wealth channel, if you see this appearing on YouTube, maybe not on LinkedIn. The people from Noster, make sure you ask me some questions. We are streaming on Zap Stream. I'm streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and also Noster. Noster is the decentralized platform, and I'm moving my content to Noster because on Noster you are unstoppable. Nobody can take the content down. If I'm telling you some things here, I might not be anymore on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, because those are, let me see. I'm in a seminar. So that is South Africa. South Africa. So that is basically, okay, we have also, this area is probably the the Emirates. Let's see if we have that indicator. Probably we don't have that indicator. You see there? We don't have that indicator. So it breaks. I want to show you that it breaks. It doesn't mean that the code doesn't work, but I can just put here later on in this code the indicator is not available. Okay? Then Ethiopia. Look at Ethiopia. We are looking at the debt. Also, Ethiopia is not in there. And then we have Iran. Iran, this indicator is available. So Iran, 50%. You see here, Iran is 50%, lower than the 60%. Egypt, let me look at Egypt. Do we have that indicator? Maybe it breaks. It doesn't break. That means that the indicator available, also 40%. But in Egypt, we have that indicator till 90, 62. So the people of Egypt, the people of the Ministry of Finance, you know we need this data so that we can analyze your economy. The people from Egypt, of the Statistical Bureau, you need to put your data, give your data to the IMF so that we can analyze that. Russia, boom. So look at Russia. The Russia has a debt which is going down. What does it mean? What does this mean? So Russia has a debt, Russian Federation, that was 120%, and the debt is basically going down below 20%. This looks like the data that Russia is reporting, that Russia doesn't have a debt, a huge debt, like the United States. That's basically what's happening. That's basically what's happening. Yeah? That's basically what's happening. So we need to check this out for sure, but Russia doesn't have that debt. Now, let me go back and let me just show you my offer again. I'm there. I'm there, and I'm going to show you. Let me see. You can look at this page, and you will see this beautiful lady, and she is already part of the VIP launch, and that's great experience. Okay, now let's continue with again that indicator. Now I want to create one indicator. I don't want to hold you because it's Sunday, but let me just pick up another indicator, which is interesting. So in the chat, if you are in the chat, which of these indicators do you want? Because we already looked at the debt. Which of these indicators do you want? We can have anything. Debt to GDP. We can have the indicator of the GDP per capita. We can have we can look at the balance of payments. Now let's look at the GDP per capita. So I know this indicator. Then I'm taking this out. Boom. Japan. What's Japan? Okay, this is real GDP. Real GDP growth. Let me see. Real GDP. This is the growth. I don't want to look at the growth. I want to look at the other variable. Let me say. We want to look at another indicator. For instance, this one. So we have all these indicators. This is GDP. How big is the economy? See here? 35 trillion. 35 trillion. The United States economy, 2025, about 30 trillion. The forecast of United States, of IMF, 30 trillion. Okay, Japan. How much? How big is the economy? Because you want to know. We see. GDP current prices. Japan, about 5 trillion. 5 trillion. So why is it trillion? Because this is a billion, and a billion times 5,000. 5,000 billions is 5 trillion. So while the USA is basically 30 trillion, the USA is 5 times bigger as the Japanese. Okay. Canada, how big? Remember, Canada, how big is the economy of Canada? Canada, about 2 trillion. You see, 2 trillion economy. Because you have to divide it by 1,000, 2 trillion. So the Canadian economy is much smaller than the Italian economy, than the Japanese economy, and then USA. So the the G7, you see here, UK used to be like United States, used to be the top of the world. I want you to remember that. Holland, the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, UK, before the United States, the UK was the top of the world, and the pound sterling was just like what the dollar is right now. Because we have not lived that through, because most of the time it takes 100 years or 150 years for a nation to decline, like the United States is declining now and China is growing. It takes 150, maybe 100 years for that to happen. For all nations in the world, all empires in the world has done that. The Roman, the Greeks, everybody. Read your stuff and you will see that. Read Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio, thank you. And you will see that has been happening. Watch other shows of Mr. Dr. Richard Wolff on YouTube, and you will see that what is happening. So 4 trillion. So Britain used to be, is about 4 trillion. 4 trillion is 7 times lower than the United States. So you see that United States picked up is now 7 times bigger than the UK, than the British Empire. Let that sink in. That's the same thing that can happen with China and the United States. So in the future, you might look at United States going down. This is big, but United States can go down, and then China can be 4 or 2 times bigger than the United States. That can happen, because that's what we're seeing here if we compare United States with UK. UK used to be in the 19th century, 18 to 19th century, they used to be the top of the world. And they didn't think that they would go down, right? So look at that. Okay, France. I think France was never the top, the world, the most dominant in the world, but France has a lot of colonies in Caribbean and in Africa. Look at this. France, 3.5 trillion is what they're doing. So France is just a little bit more than Canada. Okay, good. Italy. Boom. Let's see if we got in Italy. Italy, GDP, gross domestic product, what they earn and produce 1 year, 2.5 trillion. So that's the same as Canada. Okay, those are the G7 countries. So why is it important to know this? Because then you know how big this country is. If your economy is growing, we can also look at GDP per capita. That means that how rich are they? How rich are they compared to the world on average? Then you will see basically how wealthy on average they are. Okay, we can have another indicator, GDP per capita, but now we're only looking at the gross domestic product, SA. But we can continue, and during the 16-week episode journey, we will be doing this more so that we can understand what is happening with the BRICS and the United States. So what am I here? If you just joined, this is just the data science. We're not in Excel. We are in an environment where we can pull data from the IMF, from the World Bank, instantly, and create a graph. That's why I moved a couple of years ago to Python to be able to automate my world. Because I don't want you to sit to you and look at an Excel spreadsheet, and if you ask me, okay, Luxembourg, then I don't know. I don't know the GDP of Luxembourg. But if we are in this environment, look at this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to experiment right now. So this is Italy. So the code is over there is ITA. Yeah? But now, suppose we are in a training and you say, no, what's the Luxembourg? Then the only thing I'm doing, and I cannot do this in Excel, I'm saying Lux. Let me say, because I know that Lux is Luxembourg. And I'm saying, boom. Luxembourg is a small country. Sounds small country. Boom. Look at that. 120 billion. But per capita, Luxembourg has a very small population, and they are having 160,000 US dollars per head of the population. So although they are their production is smaller, is only 120 billion, but they are very, very wealthy on average because they have less people. They are more wealthier than Italy. You see? Curacao have 160,000 people, and our GDP is 2. And look at that. Our GDP is 2 with 160,000 people, and Luxembourg has a GDP of 120 billion. Look at that. Maybe in 20, that's the forecast. In 2025, it's about 90 billion. Compare Luxembourg to Curacao. Luxembourg has more people, but they have like their GDP per capita. So when your GDP per capita per head of the population is so high, probably you are more wealthier. The government has more taxes. The government has more power. Let's get this thing back down to Italy. So I'm just showing you, ITA, that we're doing things here. If you join my programs, if you join the VIP right now, you raise your hand that you say, I don't want to be like left behind. I don't want to be only, I don't have any data. I don't know what's happening. What you're raising your hand, you mean, hey, I want my family to be knowledgeable, to understand. I want to be explaining this. I want to know what is in the world, what's going to happen. And that's why you want to join. So if you share this link of this episode with other people, I will be grateful. If you are a master and you zap anything, even if it's 1,000 zaps, we have a goal. We want to have 10,000 zaps for this episode. And zaps is just like, if you are not familiar, it's just Bitcoin. And Bitcoin on Nostr, you can zap and you can receive value for value. If I'm delivering value for you, look at this. So now, let's look at the last one, the Brazil. So how big is the economy of Brazil? Okay, Brazil, 2.5. You see, 2.5 billion. It looks like Brazil and Canada are even the same How big? Because we looked at 2.5 here, Brazil, 2.5 trillion, sorry. And then in Canada, we also had 2.5. And Italy, you see that one? So why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because you will see that the BRICS nations, they are competing with the G7. So I selected all these, Japan, all these, because these are the G7. Those are the industrialized 7 countries. And now we have the 9 other BRICS nations. Surrounding them, there are more. There are 20 of them that want to apply to become official BRICS. And I will keep updating you. But you see already that some of the BRICS nations, like Brazil, they are even bigger than Canada. They have, of course, more people, so their GDP per capita is lower, but they have the power of the economy. Their economy is producing even bigger than, you see here, close to France. So who would have thought that? Brazil, boom, even bigger than the Canada, than Italy. Who would have thought that? You see what's happening? So what you believe they are, that we are the industrialized nations, we are developed, and Africa is poor, and Latin America is poor, BRICS is poor. It doesn't work like that. India, look at that. India, boom. Let me check India. Hopefully I can get that. So India, this is about, okay, let's say 4.5 trillion. So India, 4.5 trillion, that is bigger than Italy, bigger than Canada, 4.5 trillion, bigger than the UK, India. More people, of course, poorer. Then we have China. So sometimes it breaks, but China, okay, China got now, okay, look at this. So China is 20 trillion. So China is bigger than all these BRICS, bigger than Canada, bigger than Italy, bigger than India, and the only one who's larger GDP than Canada and than China is USA. So you see here how China, about 20 trillion, is chasing after the 30 trillion of the United States. So making America big again, becoming the most wealthy in the world, it can happen that the next 10 years it's going to be over and out. Why? Because we know that United States is growing at about 1 to 2%. So imagine you have a economy and you're growing 1 to 2%, and China is growing 7%. They're going to grow faster than you, and you're going to continue around 30 trillion, and China is moving with 20 trillion, but China is moving with 7% a year. That's what's going to happen. That's why they're going to catch up. Well, Zaf, South Africa, 400 billion. So South Africa, again, part of the BRICS, 400 billion. Okay, smaller. Something maybe, let's say, much bigger than Luxembourg. But South Africa, not in the trillion yet. Let me see. Do we have United Arab Emirates? Okay, these are small countries, but around 600 billion. So again, United Arab Emirates, if you are there, your goal is to reach 1 trillion, to play in the 1 trillion plus game, and your goal is to reach 1 trillion. You can do that with oil, you can do that with innovation, I know that, for instance, Saudi Arabia, they are producing a line, so they are heavily moving away from only oil, diversifying and moving to other sectors of the economy. China, not only manufacturing, China is also big in artificial intelligence. If you have heard about DeepSeek, you know that China is very, very advanced in artificial intelligence. And what does that mean? That means that the productivity is going to grow because artificial intelligence is going to enable you to be more productive, and your sectors of the economy are going to grow faster. That's what we can simulate in macroeconomic models, macroeconomic investment models. So we're going on a 16-week experience to do that. Raise your hand. Afterwards, we will show you. So this is United Arab Emirates. Ethiopia, I expect Ethiopia to be not so wealthy. You see here, 175 billion. Okay, 175 billion. So we are looking at the indicators by just putting them in there, analyzing that. Iran. Let me see if Iran has indicator. Iran, 600, 500 billion. So Iran is also playing in the group below 1 trillion. Now, let me just show you, let me talk to you about what does mean. There are some corporations like Tesla, like Google, that they have a market cap. Market cap means the value of their stocks. And they have much more market cap than these nations. They have like a 600 billion market cap. You understand? So we are living in a world where countries in G7, countries in the BRICS, these countries are smaller than the biggest countries, the biggest public companies in the world. That's why you see people like Musk, people like other people like Jeff Bezos, etc. They are surrounding themselves around Mr. Trump because they have so big companies and they have big interests in the world. They have big impact. So that's what is called technocracy. That's another trend we're going to analyze. So, going back, Egypt. I don't know if we have Egypt. We have Egypt here. Boom. You see? Live. It will be shown live. And you cannot do this in Excel. That's why you want to be advanced. Okay, Egypt, 500 billion. Let me say here it's 375 billion. Around that, 375 billion. Egypt economy. Small, BRICS. Small, Russia. Come on. Let me get you to Russia. Russia as the Russian Federation. Okay, you see that? 2 trillion. So Russia is also in the 2 trillion. In the 2 trillion economy. And it's going up. Good. So what does this mean? This means that you have China, Russia. These are 1 trillion plus. China is the biggest, 20 trillion, going for the 30 trillion of the United States. And those are the data that we want to show you. Okay, we want to show you this economic model. And remember, this economic model has been created by me. I analyzed the economy of the Curacao with this model, but the same model type with some other parameters, you can create that for United States, for China, for countries in the BRICS. I use these models to discuss what's happening with the economy. I run simulations, and then I look at these variables to show you exactly like what's going to happen with this variable. If I run a scenario, I have already done that in previous episodes with showing you the impact of potentially what's going to happen if United States increases tariffs on all the world, on different countries. I showed you with this model what are the processes. But we're going to create that model, and I want to, before I go out, I want to show you, invite you, please join the wait list, join the VIP room, and it is free, and you can join this room, and that means that you're only raising your hand and saying, okay, I'm interested in this journey. The journey is going to be for 50 people. I know for sure that there are more than 50 people already in there, yeah? But the journey is going to be that I'm going to notify you only if you are in the VIP room, because that means that you are interested, that you watch my content, that you know that you are interested in the world, in the United States economy. You are interested what the impact will be on your wealth, the wealth of your family, the net world, maybe your portfolios. You are interested to understand how the economy, global economy works. And that's why I'm going to notify you. And then I'm going for 50 people. We're going to start the journey, and they're going to get much, much more, because you can ask questions and we are running it for you. So that's my invitation. Thank you very much. My name is Rooney Calmera. Please help me share this content which is valuable in the world we're living in. I do this from my heart, and I'm showing you how the economy works. Today we talked about some graphs, the state of the economy of the BRICS and the G7. If you are an author, zap me. Give me some content. If you are on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, comment below. What are your concerns? What do you want me to cover? There is going to be one end episode, and if you are asking me questions, I might bring your questions into this episode, and I might dive into especially what your concerns are. So I thank you all for giving me that information. Also, shout out to all the people on Bitcoin, the people on Lightning, the people from the Keith community, the people from the Nostra community. Shout out to you guys. Thank you very much for being here. Share this content, because it's very important to be based on facts and not only BS ideas. So visit me on Nostra Rooney Calmera. Visit me on YouTube, Island Wealth. Visit me on LinkedIn, connect with me, Rooney Calmera. Facebook, Island Wealth. And I'm out. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to paradise.